The fluorescent lights of JFK International Airport buzzed overhead, casting an eerie glow on the polished floors as a biting January wind howled against the massive glass windows. The air was thick with tension, a strange cocktail of antiseptic cleaning products, overpriced coffee, and the faint perfume of duty-free luxury. But tonight, the usual chaos of Terminal 4 felt heavier, more ominous. Interpol had issued a chilling alert. Wildlife traffickers were planning to smuggle endangered species through one of the East Coast's busiest hubs. For Officer Maya Ramirez and her loyal canine partner, Ranger, this wasn't just another routine patrol, it was a test of their instincts, their bond, and their courage. Mia tightened her grip on Ranger's leash as they moved through the terminal, her breath visible in the cold air. Her mind raced with the weight of what was at stake. Diplomatic immunity had become a shield for criminals, and every suitcase could hide a dark secret. She glanced down at Ranger, his intelligent eyes scanning the crowd with precision that only years of trust and training could forge. "Stay sharp, boy," she murmured under her breath, though she knew he didn't need the reminder. Ranger's muscles tensed beneath his vest, his ears twitching at every sound, his nose working overtime to detect anything out of place. But as they approached the international arrivals area, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The supervisor's earlier warning about diplomatic sensitivity echoed in her mind like a ticking time bomb. What if they were walking into something bigger than they could handle? What if the cost of failure wasn't just their careers, but the lives of countless endangered creatures being sold to the highest bidder? Every step felt heavier, every glance from a traveler seemed suspicious. This wasn't just a night shift, it was a battle against shadows, where the line between protocol and justice blurred dangerously. The alert from Interpol had been chillingly vague: high probability of illegal wildlife trafficking through one of the East Coast's major airports, but the implications were crystal clear. As Mia and Ranger moved through Terminal 4, the weight of that intelligence pressed down on her like the January wind outside. The message hadn't come with specifics. It was deliberately sanitized to avoid diplomatic fallout. Diplomatic immunity, they said, could shield even the darkest crimes. Every glance from a traveler now seemed suspicious, every high-end suitcase a potential Trojan horse for unimaginable horrors. Mia's unease deepened when she noticed the subtle resistance from key airport personnel. Supervisor Thornton had already pulled her aside twice, his voice low but urgent, reminding her of the delicate geopolitical situation. She caught glimpses of nervous glances exchanged between senior staff during their briefing, furtive looks that spoke louder than words. Even some of her fellow officers seemed hesitant, their body language betraying discomfort at the mere idea of confronting a diplomat. The unspoken fear hung in the air. One wrong move could spark an international incident, tarnishing careers or worse, straining relations between nations. Ranger, oblivious to human politics, remained laser-focused, his nose twitching as he worked the terminal floor. But Maya couldn't ignore the mounting pressure. Her radio crackled intermittently with updates about VIP arrivals, each announcement tightening the knot in her stomach. She knew what was at stake: endangered species living. Treasures of the planet were being smuggled under the guise of diplomatic privilege. And yet, the higher-ups seemed more concerned with avoiding embarrassment than protecting wildlife. A cold realization settled over her. If something went wrong tonight, the blame wouldn't fall on the traffickers, it would land squarely on her shoulders. As they approached Gate B7 for the Emirates flight, Mia felt the tension coiling tighter. Her mind flashed back to the bomb scare 6 months ago, where Ranger's instincts had saved hundreds of lives. Back then, there'd been no hesitation, no second-guessing. Tonight, however, the rules felt different, murkier. The stakes weren't just life and death, they were global. And standing beside her, Ranger seemed to sense her turmoil. His ears flicked toward her as if asking, "Do you trust me?" She exhaled sharply. There was no other choice. If this was a battle against shadows, then she and Ranger were the only light. As Ranger's behavior shifted from routine patrol to rigid alertness, the atmosphere around Mia and the mysterious Dr. Ahmed Nazari grew electric with tension. The sleek black leather suitcase, bearing the insignia of a prestigious Italian designer, seemed innocuous at first glance, just another piece of high-end luggage in a terminal filled with luxury. But Ranger's reaction told a different story. His ears pricked forward sharply, his muscles coiled beneath his canine vest, and his nose worked overtime as if deciphering an invisible code that only he could read. "Sir," Mia began, her voice steady but firm, "I'm Officer Ramirez with Port Authority Police. Would you mind stepping aside with your luggage for a moment?" Nazari, whose tailored suit screamed diplomatic privilege, glanced up from his passport with a practiced expression of mild annoyance. "Is there a problem, officer?" he asked, his accent faint but deliberate, each word dripping with cultivated authority. Mia gestured toward a nearby screening area, but before Nazari could respond, Ranger escalated the situation dramatically. A low growl rumbled deep in his chest, a sound Mia had rarely heard during their 3 years together. It was a warning, primal and unyielding. "Control your animal, please," Nazari snapped, his composure cracking slightly. "I have diplomatic immunity, and this is simply unacceptable treatment." "Ranger, heel," Mia commanded firmly, placing a calming hand on his harness. But Ranger's focus remained locked on the suitcase, his body language unmistakably protective. Several travelers stopped to watch, some pulling out phones to record the unfolding drama. The pressure mounted as Nazari produced official-looking documentation. "I have an important meeting with your State Department in 3 hours," he declared, his tone icy. "This diplomatic pouch is protected under international law." Mia hesitated, her mind racing. Supervisor Thornton's earlier warnings about jurisdiction issues echoed in her head. If she pushed further and was wrong, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for her career, but for diplomatic relations. Yet something about Nazari's demeanor felt off. His eyes darted between her, Ranger, and the nearest exit, betraying a flicker of unease. Before she could decide her next move, the unthinkable happened. With startling speed, Ranger lunged forward, sinking his teeth into the leather suitcase and pulling it forcefully away from Nazari. The terminal erupted into chaos. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Nazari shouted, "Control that animal immediately." Security personnel converged on the scene, their expressions a mix of confusion and alarm. Mia froze for a split second, her heart pounding. This wasn't just a breach of protocol, it was a potential international incident. As Ranger released the suitcase at her command, positioning himself protectively between it and Nazari, she noticed the puncture marks on the leather. Something unusual gleamed beneath the torn surface. Whatever was inside, it wasn't ordinary luggage. The moment Ranger's teeth pierced the leather exterior of the suitcase, it was as if they had opened Pandora's box. Beneath the torn surface lay something no one could have anticipated, a sleek, metallic mesh embedded into the case's structure. The material gleamed faintly under the harsh fluorescent lights, its density and precision unlike anything Mia had ever encountered. "This isn't just shielding," muttered the bomb squad technician who had joined them, his voice tinged with awe. "It's tungsten-infused fabric military-grade countermeasure technology designed to block imaging scans." As the security team carefully widened the tier, the true nature of Nazari's luggage began to unravel. Inside, nestled in custom-built compartments, were dozens of endangered species, each housed in individual life support systems that seemed more suited for a NASA mission than a smuggling operation. Tiny golden poison dart frogs lay motionless in their sedated state, their vibrant colors dulled by drugs. A pair of critically endangered Spix's macaw chicks huddled together, their fragile bodies barely moving as artificial air circulated around them. Black-spotted newts with iridescent orange undersides rested in climate-controlled pods, their delicate gills twitching faintly. Each compartment was equipped with miniature LED indicators monitoring oxygen levels, humidity, and temperature with surgical precision. "This is insane," whispered Mia, her heart pounding as she processed the magnitude of what they were seeing. "These animals are worth millions on the black market, but this setup? It's worth billions." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the wildlife veterinarian who had been hastily summoned, shook her head in disbelief. "These aren't just smugglers," she said grimly. "They're running a high-tech operation. Look at these vials. They're circulating purified air and maintaining perfect conditions for transport. If even one of these creatures dies en route, they'd lose tens of thousands of dollars." But the revelations didn't stop there. Beneath the animal compartments, the bomb squad discovered a false bottom, a hidden section lined with lead to block any further scanning attempts. Inside, neatly stacked documents revealed an intricate web of forged passports, permits, and customs declarations so convincing that they could easily pass routine inspections. More alarming was a small lead-lined container holding vials of clear liquid, each packed in medical-grade cooling material. "Don't touch those," warned the hazmat specialist who had arrived moments earlier. "Based on the labeling, that's biotoxin extracted from the amphibians. A single drop of poison dart frog toxin can kill a human within minutes." Mia felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the full scope of Nazari's operation. This wasn't merely about trafficking endangered animals. It was about harvesting them for their biological potential. The combination of cutting-edge military shielding, forged diplomatic credentials, and lethal toxins painted a horrifying picture of a global criminal enterprise operating with impunity. "He wasn't bluffing when he said he had powerful connections," Mia murmured, glancing at Thornton, who stood frozen beside her. "This goes far beyond one man or one suitcase." As the technicians continued documenting the evidence, Mia couldn't help but think back to Ranger's unrelenting instincts. Despite the advanced technology designed to deceive scanners and evade detection, her partner had seen through it all. His growl hadn't been random. It had been a calculated alert to something only he could sense. She knelt beside him now, scratching behind his ears. "You knew, didn't you?" she whispered. "Even when everyone else doubted you?" The discovery sent shockwaves through the terminal. Homeland Security agents arrived shortly after, their faces pale as they reviewed the findings. Preliminary estimates suggest this shipment alone is worth over $15 million, Agent Dawson reported, swiping through images on his tablet. "And based on the seized documents, Nazari, or should I say Malik, is connected to at least 7 other major trafficking operations across 3 continents." He paused, looking up at Mia. "Your arrest may have just dismantled one of the largest wildlife trafficking networks in the Western Hemisphere." Yet, amidst the chaos, Mia couldn't shake the image of the tiger cub, a critically endangered Sumatran tiger receiving fluids and gentle care from the wildlife team. Without Ranger's intervention, these creatures would have vanished forever into private collections or been harvested for profit. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had saved lives tonight, not just human ones, but the lives of some of Earth's rarest treasures. As Nazari now revealed to be Farid Malik, a mastermind of wildlife trafficking, burst through the fire door into the baggage handling area, Mia's pursuit turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse. The labyrinthine corridors echoed with the screech of conveyor belts and the hum of machinery, creating an industrial symphony that masked their movements. Malik moved with unnerving speed, his expensive suit now torn at the sleeves, but his face set in cold determination. "Stop, airport police," Mia shouted, her voice slicing through the mechanical din, though she knew it was futile. This wasn't just a criminal. This was someone who had evaded capture across continents. Malik didn't slow down. Instead, he grabbed a luggage cart and hurled it toward Mia, forcing her to leap awkwardly over it. Her ribs screamed in protest as she landed hard on the concrete floor, but adrenaline kept her moving. "All units, suspect heading toward ground transportation via Service Corridor D." She barked into her radio, her breath ragged. The chase led them deeper into the bowels of the terminal, where dim lighting cast long shadows over piles of luggage and idling service vehicles. Then came the moment that froze Mia's blood. As Malik reached into his jacket, he pulled out a compact composite firearm designed to evade metal detectors and fired. The bullet ricocheted off the concrete wall inches from her head, sending shards flying. Airport workers dove for cover, screams piercing the air. Mia rolled behind a luggage cart, her heart pounding like a war drum. "Officer down, shots fired," she reported, drawing her own weapon. But Malik wasn't aiming to negotiate. With calculated precision, he backed toward an idling catering truck, his gun trained on Mia. "This ends one of two ways, officer," he snarled. "You let me leave, or your body becomes a message." Before Mia could respond, a blur of tan and black fur exploded into the scene. Ranger, having tracked her through the complex maze, launched himself at Malik with military precision. His powerful jaws clamped down on Malik's weapon arm, forcing him to drop the gun. The sound of it clattering against the concrete was deafening. Man and dog tumbled together, Ranger's training ensuring he maintained control without causing lethal harm. But Malik wasn't done fighting. Using his free hand, he delivered a brutal elbow strike to Mia's side, finding the gap in her body armor with chilling accuracy. Pain seared through her torso, and for a split second, darkness threatened to consume her vision. "Ranger, hold," Mia commanded through gritted teeth, fighting to stay conscious. She lunged forward despite the agony, securing Malik's other hand with the dangling handcuff. Backup officers flooded the area moments later, weapons drawn, but it was Ranger who had turned the tide. As Malik was finally restrained, Mia collapsed against a nearby luggage cart, clutching her side. "That animal should be destroyed," Malik spat, his voice laced with venom. "It attacked a diplomatic representative." Mia glared at him, her voice steady despite her injuries. "That animal just prevented you from adding murder to your trafficking charges." The aftermath of the operation was a whirlwind of chaos and indication. Mia and Ranger's actions had dismantled a wildlife trafficking network valued at over $15 million, saving dozens of critically endangered species from extinction. The rescued animals, golden poison dart frogs, Spix's macaw chicks, black-spotted newts, and even a Sumatran tiger cub were carefully transported to specialized conservation facilities. Some would eventually return to their native habitats, while others would live in sanctuaries designed to mimic their natural environments. It was a monumental victory for global biodiversity, but the cost of that triumph weighed heavily on Maya. Within hours, representatives from the embassy where Malik had posed as a diplomat filed formal complaints against her. They accused her of violating international law, tarnishing diplomatic relations, and abusing her authority. For 3 grueling days, Mia faced intense scrutiny from internal affairs, Homeland Security, and even State Department officials. "You jeopardized an entire diplomatic mission," one investigator barked during a particularly heated session. "Do you understand the implications of your actions?" Mia clenched her fists under the table, her ribs still throbbing from Malik's attack. She knew they weren't just questioning her judgment, they were testing her resolve. Every word she spoke was dissected, every decision second-guessed. The pressure mounted when rumors spread that her badge might be revoked. Yet through it all, Ranger remained by her side, his unwavering loyalty a silent reminder of why she'd taken the risk in the first place. The tide turned when Interpol released damning evidence linking Malik to multiple trafficking operations across continents. The forged documents, biotoxin samples, and intercepted communications painted an irrefutable picture of his criminal empire. With support from international agencies, Mia's superiors finally acknowledged the magnitude of her achievement. At a press conference 2 weeks later, Port Director Marshall publicly commended her and Ranger, calling them heroes who stood firm against corruption and greed. The story of Mia and Ranger is more than just a tale of bravery. It's a testament to the unbreakable bond between humans and their canine partners, forged through trust, instinct, and shared purpose. As Mia stood by the temporary wildlife care center, watching veterinarians tend to the rescued animals, she couldn't help but reflect on the weight of what they had achieved. Each creature saved, each golden poison dart frog, each Spix's macaw chick was a victory not just for law enforcement, but for the planet itself. Wildlife trafficking wasn't merely a crime. It was a systematic assault on Earth's biodiversity, driven by greed and enabled by corruption. And yet, in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, Mia and Ranger had prevailed. But their triumph came at a cost. The pressure of balancing protocol with moral duty had been suffocating. Mia remembered the cold sweat that ran down her spine as Thornton ordered her to stand down, the piercing stares of embassy officials who threatened to destroy her career, and the haunting possibility that her instincts could have been wrong. It wasn't just about risking her job, it was about challenging systems far larger than herself. Political power, diplomatic immunity, and international relations were forces that could crush anyone who dared to defy them. Yet, standing beside her was Ranger, a partner whose loyalty never wavered, whose instincts cut through lies like a blade. Their relationship was a masterclass in teamwork. While technology failed and human judgment faltered, Ranger's nose uncovered truths hidden beneath layers of deception. He didn't care about jurisdiction or politics. He cared about doing what was right. For Mia, this partnership was sacred, a reminder that true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Together, they proved that even in a world clouded by bureaucracy and greed, one person and one dog could make a difference.